Stand by for the broadcast. Get ready for a test of the emergency broadcast system, the Forbidden History series, what they didn't want you to know, but we tell right here. Time to call your friends, ladies and gentlemen. We're about to make history, being a part of history. This program is the sole paramount copyright and intellectual property of Desert Owl and MFG. All rights reserved. No reproduction of this presentation is permitted without the express consent of its author. Please note that the following views and opinions expressed on this program are not necessarily the views nor the opinions of the Master Force Group, YouTube.com, Free America Radio Network, our sponsors, our partners, and MFG is a private society. Nothing here is ever to be construed as medical nor legal advice. And listen to the Forbidden History prime time 7 days a week right here on the realpublicradio.net, because hidden beneath the sands of time lies the greatest of all mysteries. It's the Forbidden History. Unearth for yourself the secret truths that lie hidden just beneath the surface below our feet. What is it that the powers that be do not want you or I to know? Come and journey with us as we explore and dare to know, because it's all right here, coming your way 7 days a week on the realpublicradio.net, Free America Radio Network. Find us on youtube.com by going to The Forbidden History Series. 4 words, The Forbidden History Series. Stand by for the broadcast. You did call your friends, of course, right? Still time to call your friends, ladies and gentlemen. Coming to you live from Studio Z at the Lighthouse in Central Ohio and Free America Radio Network in the land of dreams, enchantments, and nightmares. It's the Forbidden History series. What they didn't want you to know, but we tell right here. And I'm your host, Desert Owl. Ladies and gentlemen, I want to thank you for tuning in, and want to welcome all our wonderful new friends. And there's somebody I know, well, Lynn Mitzi, of course, and Linda Miller, and also April Joy just subscribed today, and I've been following her for months. So just glad to have you, April, okay? And God bless your show. Thank you so much. And, you know, it's, and we hit the voodoo over here, okay? So we go into the dark deepness of the deep ocean, where everybody wants to stay in the bay and in the shallow water where they can see the bottom. We go where you can't see the bottom, and it just keeps going down deeper and deeper and deeper, the proverbial rabbit hole, you know. And somebody's got to do it, and I'm just the glutton for that kind of punishment, you know. And I took that red pill. It was a big one, and now there's no going back, of course, ladies and gentlemen. So I was reading, of course, Napoleon's quote for the last couple of days, but this was one, I'm sure it was a politician who said this. I'm not giving credit to anybody specifically when I wrote the quote down. Who cares, you know, because he said, and he knew it because he was an insider, it is easier to lie to people than it is to convince them that they have been lied to, right? Come on. I mean, I know that's true because I've been trying to share what I, you know, have been learning with my small circle of friends. That some have been with me for a dozen years or more, and some of them, you know, they kind of got the idea, but most of them are like, you know, they're still using occultic words, right? They're still into the you know, what has been spoon fed to them, right? They can't be set free and realize that we had original terms, and that in fact even the very terminology of Hebrew, Hebrew. I mean, there's different aspects of this word. It's a deep meaning word. The brew. Well, you know, I like to drink a brew, and certainly it has an implication. But it's the brev, the hebrev, and the brev are the brave. Okay, because the brave are the ones that are going to go back. Okay, they're going to go back and say, I don't care how bad it is, just show me the truth, because I wanna know where I come from, who, what, where, when, why, and how, who I am, where I am, why I am, and when I am. What does anybody really know what time it is, or does anybody really care? Hello? Okay, well, that's what we're going to find out here tonight, ladies and gentlemen. And so the great lies of history, that's the main feature of the Forbidden History series. It was a book that I conceived of about 5 years ago after I lost my apartment in Georgia and was displaced for about a year and off the computer. Just broke out my books out of the boxes, staying with a former listener and then a former sponsor, and just read books for 12 hours a day and I've been toting them around for 25 years. It was about time I brought them back out. Mostly I was watching lots of documentaries and doing my broadcasting. But yet when I started reading the books of what the parts I didn't read, it was like, geez, I've been carrying this around for this long. Like Philo, the great epic philosopher. Philo, he was a friend of Yeshua. Okay, he lived in Alexandria, the great center of philosophy, but he was a Hebrew sage, and the discoveries that are to be made are endless. Unless we have a passion for it, a drive for it, a thirst, like recognizing that maybe we're not there yet. And if we're not there yet, that means we better be focused, put our tennis shoes on, and get ready to do the 100-yard dash, because the lies are dominating. The lies are dominating, ladies and gentlemen. And I've had the last few days now of revealing stuff. I felt, it's like I challenge myself whether I should be saying this stuff, when I'm revealing it, because like, okay, Father, who's going to listen to me? I mean, geez. But yet, what's really happening, of course, in this time, because just like the majority of you right there on right now are sky watchers, okay? Linda, Lynn, April, all of you, and congratulations, April. You got another plug by Matt Rogers tonight. Another great pick. She's really out there absorbing that solar radiation just to get good picks. My hat's off to her. But don't forget, wear a hat and sunglasses, April. We are in need of okay. So what I was saying was, because like all of you are sky watchers, you already know the end is here, basically, right? I mean, it can't be that all of the sky phenomena is going on, and then all the poisons that they're putting up there playing their games, and we don't know that we're about to see the end of the world as we know it forever, right? That it was bad enough we're already getting old, but somebody's already cut that short, and 2 years from now we may no longer be here, if not sooner. So it gets everybody focused. So that goes to one of my sayings that I had, which was the fire is good. The fire is good. And because if you didn't have the fire under you, and if you were just, everything was sky and roses, beautiful blue skies, the old original clouds, and and everything normal, then you may not be too driven to okay, say I'm going to find out what this reality is all about, and so the fire is good. It was necessary, and no doubt it happens at the point when the world is the most populated, right? And that's apparently the way it was when it happened 5,500 years ago, because to the best of my calculations, it was in the days of Noah. And what's interesting is the Mayan calendar, which they said was going to end at 2012, and it wasn't the end of the world. That's the media. They propagated that. It wasn't the end of the world. It was the end of an age. They were saying that this is when the transition occurs. And so it's interesting. The Mayan calendar is 5,250 years, give or take. And when the flood of Noah happened, it was 5,250 years ago. So, okay. So get the picture that what has gone around is coming around again, and it's a cycle. It's a cycle that has been going on for a long time. Oh, and I got another great lie. Now this reminds me, I'm going to have to talk about the flood. I'm going to have to share with you the flood, okay? Because that's another one, and nobody's told the story. Okay, I know it. I know it's on my radio network. I got a picture of it. Okay, if you go to therealpublicradio.net and go to news, okay, you'll get a preview. You won't hear the discussion, but you'll see what I'm talking about. Therealpublicradio.net, and then go to the news tab, kind of like in the middle, as I remember off the top of my head. Okay, so tonight on the Great Lies of History, we did, on this segment, I'm going to do a quick review on the lie of the serpent, right? And I hope not too many of you were totally offended when I told you were actually the serpent, okay? And it's that's what it was all about when Moses put the serpent on the cross, and it was said because everybody had the sting of death, and everybody's got the sting of death on this planet until they received the great breath of the wind and fire, which is the Holy Spirit. And so being that you have to have the sting of death, unless you're fortunate, and you've overcome that already, then you've got to see the serpent. You have to know who the serpent is, because you are the serpent, okay? And you are the enemy, your own worst enemy. You're the one slowing yourself down. You're the one doing things you didn't want to do, but you're compelled for some reason. Some people, it's, it could be overeating, it could be smoking, it could be, being profane, it could be sex, it could be anything that detracts, in other words, following the animal compulsions rather than putting on reason, which is what the battle that happened with Adam and Eve. It was the fact that they knew something, they were told something, but then they said, but you know what? This looks pretty appealing. I think I want to check this out. And then, oh, there's Linda's got a. Where do you get these pictures from? I don't know how to do that stuff. There's a serpent there as well. I can't get over it. Okay, so let me continue rocking and rolling here. So but then the main part, I got to read for you. Okay, it's going to be a combination of the Great Lies of History and the book review, because in the book, the Arco volume, Arco, ARCHKO, Arco volume, 2 words, the Arco volume, and in there, this is an amazing collection, come out of the 1800s, all right? And I'll talk more about it when we get to it. But in there, I'm going to do a read of the letter from Pilate to Tiberius Caesar, after Yeshua came back from the dead, and did what he said he would do, and therefore laid the groundwork for the salvation of all mankind, to transcend from this godforsaken world, to use a pagan term. Okay, so Pilate did not kill Yeshua, so let me flip the page here. And by the way, if you want to call in, and I do need another radio check, there's no hurry, but if you feel compelled, or at one point before the end of the program, or before you leave, you can just give me a radio check, or if you got a comment or a question, then I certainly happy to take your call. And I'm still trying to get my rhythm here, friends, okay? Because I feel bad when I miss some of the questions from some of my friends here, on the other, when I'm doing my review the next day and I see the chat and there's a question for me and I didn't get it, So what I want to ask is, if you have a question and you want to post it in the chat and it's a question for me, then consider spelling out question in all capital letters and then a colon, okay? Question in all capital letters, then a colon, and then in small letters, upper and lower, you can make your question. But I need something to grab my attention, because in my discussion, I don't know if you're talking to somebody, in the chat room, or if you're talking to me. So a big capital letters, question, and a colon, and then the upper and lower case after that. I think I'll do a better job, and I'll try to give more attention to your questions, because I'm rolling, but I need to try to answer some of the questions that you have, and so please forgive me. I'm going to do a better job, I promise. And so again, the call-in number is 608-566-7295. That's 608-566-7295. And what is it you're still trying to figure out? That's what I'd love to help you with, okay? If you're still trying to figure something out, maybe, just maybe, I got wind of it, okay? Oh yeah, the emoji. I saw that, but I only saw what looked like, the little they remind me of some candy I used to get when I was little, and but it only showed like these happy faces, all these different faces. I guess there's further to go in the emoji too, right? Deep down in the water. I didn't see the link there, but anyway, I'll check it out again. Thank you, Linda. And so Skype, I'd love to test my Skype phone as well. So if you've got Skype and can do that, I've got to test my system out. That's what I'm trying to do. With the new test I'm going to do with my phone, I figured out that it's my other speaker on my webcam that's still active and on, and I don't think it's the one on my headset. And so I put the phone at the wrong area, and so I think I'll get this figured out eventually. And Skype is Free America Radio, all one word. My Skype phone or the instant messenger. The instant messenger will definitely get my attention and make it a priority on the question. It's Free America Radio, all one word. Free as in freedom, America, and radio. Free America Radio, all one word. And it says in Kingsland, Georgia. Okay, but yes, I am in Ohio. And so now, ladies and gentlemen, what I'm going to do first off is tell you a story. We're going back to that serpent again, okay? Oh, I have to scroll down. Thank you, Linda. Okay, and so we're back. I just want to give you more foods for the the confirmation, clarification that we are the serpent. Remember, you put on the shirt and the pants, and the shirt pan. The T is really silent. It's not pants. It's pan. Okay, pan, meaning that which goes around, right? And the pans go around you, and so pan. Serpan is the original word, not serpent. The T is silent. It's serpan. Serpan. Oh, and another one is the word person. That it's really a legal term. Person is basically a corporation, trust, a fiction, and we often use it to associate it with ourselves when it's not really us. And then when you rearrange the letters as the anagram, you may have to change one vowel, and that's the rule of the anagram. But you rearrange the letters in person, and guess what you get? Serpent. So a person is a serpent. Not only your shirt pan, you put your shirts on and your pants on, and it's telling you you're a serpent. That's all. That's how they named it. Who named the shirt? I didn't name the shirt. I didn't name the pants. Somebody did a long time ago, and this because they knew what it was. They're like I said, they're laughing all the way to the bank. They're the banksters. They're the ones that rip us off. They rip us off for our home after we got the mortgage. They rip us off for our knowledge in the school. They rip us off for everything, ladies and gentlemen. And they're having a party. That's why those Zionist Khazarians, when the 9/11 towers went down, remember? They were dancing on the rooftops, right? They were dancing. Because they have no regard for life, because we're the goyim. We're the goyim. We are the cattle. We're the chattel. And that's what capital means, by the way, okay? Capital is the counted, capital is the tally. Tal is the tally. And the kappa is the head count. That's what capital means, head count. And that's cattle, chattel. Okay, so you're the head count. And they got your birth certificate in the Department of Commerce in Washington, D.C., slave. Okay, you didn't know that? And so they follow the Babylonian Talmud. They hate your guts, and they're just here to play games with you. That's why 2 million people, at least in America right now, are under direct mind control or targeting. And they're playing games with them just to have fun, just to keep their military in practice. And, so that's okay. We can be set free from that. Yeshua has, as far down the rabbit hole as I gone and being a political activist, which I'm no longer. The Father has protected me when I've seen many of the good friends go to prison and they're still there today, or they died in prison, or they got poisoned in prison when they got out. They died shortly after, or they got shot on the side of the road. The things that have happened, to wonderful, great people that became, tried to be head their own organizations and researching the law and revealing this stuff. They eventually get around to you, and they eat you up and chew you and spit you out. That's the nature of their game. Okay, it's a psychopathic world. It's a world of darkness, but yet the light is superior. That's the beauty. You see, the world appears to be run by the darkness, and it is on the exoteric level, but behind it, moving and shaking at any moment that he's needed, is Yeshua, the Redeemer of all mankind, and the one who made all things, who is all things, within all things. There is nowhere that he's not. And he's the all-seeing eye, right? When they put their little phony all-seeing eye on the dollar bill, has nothing to do with them, nothing. Okay, so I'm going to go to a story now. Forgive me, I always ramble. I'm long-winded, as you know, and I probably have the record for bringing out more words per hour than any other radio host or guest in history, ladies and gentlemen. And it's only because I'm charged, and I know I've got limited time, and I want to get it out. So I just get on a roll. That's why Dr. Lorraine Hurley did such a great job interviewing me, because the more every day as we went further, she stopped doing her monologue and just let me roll. She saw I didn't like those commercials very much after I punched them right in the face with their stupid commercials. I did therealpublicradio.net, no commercials, and I didn't charge to produce programs for people. I produced them for free because our information is too important. And I see somebody is sending me a virus now. I appreciate that very much. That means somebody else is listening in, and they actually think I'm going to click on that. I can't get over it. Watch this. I'm going to go there. Hang on. Yep, there it is. They're sending me a little virus just to accept, And I think I'll block this one. Thank you very much. Thank you for the virus. I'm glad you're listening in. Let me see here. You report abuse? Sure, I'll report abuse. And block. Okay. Yeah, that's the thing I learned about, being in this arena, that everybody listens, ladies and gentlemen, everybody listens. And I think more of them actually respect hearing the truth, because the Freemasons know they're being lied to as well. Right? They give them, all the little puppies that come in, the dogs, the little puppy dogs that don't know anything, and then they tell them, don't forget, when you talk to your Grand Poobah, tell him when he says, "What do you want, my son?" and you tell him, "Bubba, I want more light. Please give me more light." When Masonic means the mother's sons of darkness, the mother's sons of darkness. That's what they are, and yet they profess the light. The Luciferians. As it says in Albert Pike's big book, their handbook, Morals and Dogma, our God is Lucifer, doubt it not. Well, Lucifer is darkness. Lucifer is symbolic of the moon. That has no light. It's just a reflection of the light. Looking pretty good, but it's not the light. And so anyway, they lie to them. They lie to them and tell them this is what the symbol means. But then as they get to the next higher degrees, they find out, well, remember when we told you the symbol means this? Well, actually, it didn't mean that. This is really what the symbol means. And they lied to them again. And then as they get to the next level, eventually they may start learning the true meaning behind the symbols. But when you control knowledge, when you control information, right, then you control everybody. And that's what they do. So they know they're not going to spill the beans. That's what we're doing here tonight, right? That's what we've been doing for 5 days now, spilling the beans, because I don't own the information. It's not mine. And it's not mine to play games with. It is for everybody. It is meant to be. You got robbed. They lied to you. They robbed you of your truth. They turned your scriptures into an occultic document. Occultic meaning hiding the light, changing the word, just like the word righteousness. Do you ever use the word righteousness when you go to work? Of course not. What is the righteous? It's a code. You can tell it's a strange word. It's not normal. Righteousness, we used to, when we were hippies back in the 1970s, we say, hey, man, that's righteous, isn't it? Yeah, man, that's righteous. Yeah. But we don't know the word. We didn't, we weren't there when the word was born. But it's a code. It's a cyber code for the cyber code for the perfection of light. Okay? So righteousness is the perfection of light. Isn't that what it's about? Is this not a light creation? And therefore, it is about the perfecting of the light creation that Yeshua instituted from the beginning. And when he said it's finished, now the operation is in effect. All comers are welcome, right? Okay, so let's get back to the serpent now, after we've had our secret agent come in and try to sabotage my computer already. That was a lot of fun. I appreciate them revealing themselves. It's like that they don't hide. They think I'm stupid enough to click on that link that, I've seen that same link over and over. It's not like the first time they've used it. I see it coming. I see them coming, but I do welcome your prayers and thank you for all your support. And my time will be up when my time is up and not before. And I'm just getting started here with helping out a lot of people. I'm just at my prime when it comes to revealing this knowledge, actually, because everything else was a preparation. But anyway, ladies and gentlemen, the story of an old man and a serpent under the tree. Okay, that's the story. And when I was sitting on a concrete slab, staring at a concrete ceiling, facing the trial of my life, got railroaded by these Masons, and framed for a crime I didn't do that they committed. They committed, the Masons. And the pirate criminals of the old Ohio River. I read a story. I was grateful for Bo Lizoff, who had the Human Kindness Foundation. A lot of great free books came to you when you're sitting in jail, being railroaded, and gives you a lot of strength and spiritual inspiration. And there's Peace Pilgrim was another one. Amazing story of this lady. But anyway, so to get to this story, I know I'm getting long-winded and I got to get focused here. I'm just really grateful, to have such a wonderful group of friends I've just recently made. It's like I had no friends anymore, and I didn't talk to anybody. Could go weeks without the phone ringing, And now all of a sudden I've got all these wonderful new friends that I've made, and I know they're all very special people. They're people that care about life and their family, and are trying to make it a better world as well. They're out there in the UV radiation, risking their lives, taking pictures of the sky because they know what's going on, they care, and they're just, so I hope you all protect yourself in doing this and do it in the right way. Okay, so the story of the man and the serpent. Okay, so there was an old man walking down a trail, and he had a white robe on and a long white beard and a long white hair, and he had a staff that he was walking with, and as he's walking down the trail in the woods, then all of a sudden he sees a man sleeping under an apple tree, and this young man who's sleeping under the apple tree is laying in an area where under the tree all these apples have fallen down, and they're all rotting. Once they hit the ground, they start to rot, right? And so while the old man is walking by and watching him sleeping there on the ground snoring, all of a sudden a serpent came over to him, a snake, and then the snake just went right into his mouth, right down into his belly. And so the old man, he knew what to do, and he took his staff and he walked over to him and he started beating the young man with his staff and beating him, saying, "Come on, get up, wake up, wake up!" And the young man's going, "What's going on? What?" He says, "Start eating those rotten apples. Come on, start eating them." And the young guy didn't know what to do because the guy's beating him with the stick. And he says, "All right, I'll start eating these rotten apples." And he just started eating one apple after another, eating them while the guy's going to beat him with the stick unless he keeps on eating them. And he keeps eating them and he keeps eating them. And all of a sudden, he can't eat anymore. And he's all of a sudden he's realizing he's about to throw up, and then and then he's heaving, and all of a sudden, boom, and he just vomits. And while he starts vomiting all these rotten apples out, all of a sudden, out of his mouth comes this snake. And he's like, whoa, where did that come from? What's going on here? And the old man told him, well, he said, "You know what? If I would have told you what happened to you, you never would have believed me. So I had to get you to eat all those rotten apples so that you'd want to vomit them all back up." You get the picture, ladies and gentlemen? The rotten apples are the things that have happened to you in all of your life. And that's why you are people cut above the edge right now, because you've eaten those rotten apples and you're vomiting them out right now because you're sick of the world, you're sick of the trolls, you're sick of the garbage, you're sick of the nonsense, the phoniness, the lies, the deceit. You're sick of it. You want to vomit it out. And when, in the process of your vomiting it out, you're destroying the serpent, which is the flesh, because the flesh loves the earth and the ego loves the flesh, but yet it cannot go and it has to die so that you can live. There are two of you and one must die so that the other can live. That's the great mystery of life. And that's what Yeshua was teaching us, and that's what that parable says. And so it was a fantastic to read that story, and I never forgot it, and it's just been really great to share. Okay, and so we're going to go a little further. There's like several elements in this story, and I'm trying to think of which was the next. Okay, this is the next one, because you see there, as I said, that in the original they had limited words, and therefore one word had to do business for many different things, right? Like the word shavor in the beginning was the shavor, and the shavor is the word, and the shavor is the sword, and the shavor is the savior, and the shavor is the first and the latter rain, the shavor, the shower, and then the shavor is also the sower. You see, all of those things in one word. In the beginning was the shavor, and that's the Indo-Germanic, and that's where we have to take it. Not logos, not word, because those are corruptions, and those are not the original. And so you're learning a whole new tongue here. Tongue is the tone key. Notice how tongue is always spelled funny? It's because it's two words in the original. It's tone key. It's the tone key, okay? And so let's ask the question now, because I want you to get the best picture possible for the garden, because I know I've given you a lot of different things to dwell on, but I just gave you the example again. That parable that was not in our scriptures said that you're a serpent, you got a serpent in you, and you got to get it out. just confirming what I was saying yesterday in the presentation. Okay, you got to see the serpent and then you can live. That's what it said. Moses put it up on a cross and everybody had the sting of death. And he says, if you can see the serpent, you see who it is, you can live. Okay, so if the truth is stranger than fiction, is it not? I mean, we had one idea all along. We thought snakes could talk. We thought it was, now you see, because now this is leading up to the next part about the trees, because it said the snake was in the tree. Okay, and so let's find out what or who the trees are. Okay, because, you know, like, just like a guy, me, I can wear several hats. I can be a dad, I can be a carpenter, I can be a son, I could be a brother, I can be a variety of different things, and it's all still me, right? And so these are different aspects of who I can be, you know, and there could be more, and you know, an athlete, whatever. So the question is, it said that there were two trees in the garden. Now, if we take it back to the primordial, the most primordial, then it would be the sun and the moon. And the moon would represent the tree of knowledge, and the sun would represent the tree of life. But if we take it then further ahead into when now we've got creation on earth, and it said that Adam was taken out of Eden and placed into the garden, two different places. Nobody gets the picture. And the garden is the earth, because this is our garden, nowhere else, not out there, not on the moon. Definitely not on the moon. That's not a garden out there. So the garden's on the earth. And it said there were two trees in the garden. Okay? And one is the tree of life, and one is the tree of knowledge. And so if we talk about man and woman, then the woman is the tree of life. Why? Because she's the one who has the ability to bring forth life. And that's why all the universe is female, because the woman is bringing forth the life. And that's why in the last week of Yeshua, when he was in Jerusalem and they were going to kill him, and remember one night at Lazarus' home, then Mary was anointing his feet, and then Judas begrudged him and her for using that expensive ointment, and said, what's going on here? We could have sold that and fed the poor and put some in my pocket at the same time. And then Yeshua said, leave her alone, because, and the translation is not perfect. And it needs to be perfect, okay? Because it said, like, leave her alone, because this thing that she has done, you know, will be written about as a memorial for her. But what it needed to say correctly, to be correct, in first letter caps, being the woman, this thing that the woman has done, this thing that the woman, capital T, capital W, the woman has done, will be written about as a memorial for her, okay? He wasn't talking about Mary. She was playing a role to create the picture. He was talking about the woman, meaning the cosmic woman, Elohim, and also even the flesh and blood woman, all right? Because they got a tough job too, and they got a bad rap when both the man and the woman were in the fall. But the man who was supposed to represent the tree of knowledge, he fell. He fell. He didn't tell her the truth. He lied to her. And therefore they both fell, and as a consequence. But you know what's interesting, because it said that the fruit that they couldn't eat. Now I just told you that they represent trees, right? And just like it says in the New Testament, you know a tree by its fruit, meaning you know a tree by what it does, or an individual by what they do. So we are trees. We have a family tree. And I've been eating the fruit of the tree of knowledge all my life, which is Yeshua, my Redeemer. And so it said that, he said, did Elohim not say, or Yahweh not say, that you could eat of all the trees of the garden? He said that we can eat of all the trees of the garden, but the tree at the center, key point here, at the center of the garden, the tree at the center of the garden, we shall not touch it. Now you get the picture. You show me the center of the garden on the planet, okay, right? Because there is no center. It is round. It's a sphere. It's all the same everywhere. It's, you know, it's got forest, it's got desert area. It's, you know what I'm saying? So because it's talking about them, they are the trees. Well, you know what the center is then, right? You get in the picture because comes from yesterday. Where were we yesterday? We were talking about that their fall was the carnal, you know, the carnal knowledge was waking up to their own sensuality, their own ability to become creators. They had intercourse, the fruit of the loom. They She took the fruit of her husband and and she ate it. It said, and then she gave to him. And in Septuagint said, and he found pleasure. Okay, that's what he found when he took the fruit from her. Okay, so he compelled her. She followed along, and then they both found pleasure. And so that's at the center. That was at the center of their garden, and that's why also, you know, what is below the navel there is a symbol also of the garden. It's the hidden garden, because we're not supposed to see it. It's private, and but yet it is a representative of the hidden garden that we never figure out every day, all of our life, that we're in the garden. We never left the garden. The only thing we left was paradise. And paradise is the state of perfection, the perfect state of peace, of divine love, of knowing, of truth, of not caring whether somebody comes and takes your life or not, because you already have identified with your eternal being. You see, everybody else in the world, you know, they just think they got something, but you know, when they're put to the test, we know that you know, they realize that they've got a little work to do, and they didn't pursue it. You know, so and I'm amazed that we don't have any questions, but I guess everybody's intently listening, and that's great, because we're just getting started here. Who are to choose a garden? And I just covered that. Okay, so now I'm going to go to a couple more examples of. I just before the program, I decided I was going to do one of my regular spiritual reads. It was getting late, and I said I think I can knock out one little, you know, mini section. Okay, and so I'm going to read this here. It's out of the Nag Hammadi scriptures, and this is the Gospel of Truth. Now I know Nag Hammadi gets a bad rap, and one day I'm going to talk about it and show how the United Nations translation team of UNESCO mistranslated it on purpose so nobody get the picture. And Dan Brown's book, you know, The Real Da Vinci Code, slammed the Nag Hammadi library, and you know, and because they're actually supporting the Vatican while they're destroying the ancient scriptures all at the same time, a double play, you know, with the work. And so I have to get a little more light. Hang on a second. Okay, so it's a deep wick, ladies and gentlemen. The scam, you know, everything that we hear is basically part truth, part lie, and more so the lies. But you know, they never called themselves Gnostics in the Nag Hammadi. They were Christians. They were of the highest order. These were the most superior of scriptures, and but yet they were mistranslated on purpose because they wanted to demonize the spiritual group that lived in a total monastic setting. Okay, total monastic setting, and they fasted like 20 days, and then they would eat for 20 days, then they would fast for 20 days. They were separate from society, so they received the highest visions and revelations. They were as close to off of this planet as you can get without, you know, without leaving it. And so that's why they had these fantastic writings. But they were also writings by Paul, Peter, and others, okay, that we know, and James, okay. So they were preserved there, and so they have to demonize it. They've got to, because they only wanted us to have the 27 teeny weeny little books in what we call the New Testament, the smallest collection of scriptures for any spiritual tradition in the world. Right? That's what they gave us, the smallest collection of scriptures for any spiritual tradition or religion in the world, when we were supposed to have a library, and we did, and it was stolen from us. Okay, so I just want to read this short bit because it was right on with, you know, what this discussion was about. So this section is called "The Father Knows His Plants," meaning in the garden, what He's planted in paradise. So He is perfect. He knows His produce and His plants, because He planted them in His garden paradise. And His paradise is his place of rest. And again, they didn't translate these things perfectly, and so they're subject to review from my standpoint, because there is a distinction between the garden of the earth and the paradise, which is a state of being, but it is in the light, and the final aspect of that is in the metaphor of in the throne of the sun, just like hello Martha, good to have you out of Ontario, Canada, and so the para so the as you know, I talked about Eden being a code word for the original word, which is atom, and the atom, the big atom, that following a maxim, that which is least is like that which is the greatest, or that which is the greatest is like that which is the least. Okay, so an atom, an atom is the smallest. We don't even see them; they're floating around in the air, and they make little insects. I can't get over how we're such big biological creatures, then they got these super complicated structures of insects still going on at that microscopic level, and I'll give you an idea. I'll give you an idea of how profound the atoms are, because I watched this movie on the atoms one day, and so they gave this illustration. They said, take an 8-ounce glass of water, and so get the picture. That 8-ounce glass of water that's sitting right there on the table in front of you has more atoms in it okay, let me rephrase it. Okay, I'm phrasing it wrong. There are more atoms in that 8-ounce glass of water than there are glasses of water in all of the oceans of the world. Okay, I'll say it again. There are more atoms in that 8 ounces of water than there are glasses of water in all of the oceans of the world. Is that not a mind blower? They say that there's like 1 million atoms in the width of a hair. In the width of one of your hairs, there's like 1 million atoms. String them together, and it's a mind blower, total mind blower. And so they're saying that the sun and the solar system is a macrocosm of the microcosm of the atom, with the proton and the neutron, or those things that go around, and it's mostly vacancy, right? There's little substance to the atom itself, and that's why everything's like a hologram in 3D, right? Okay, so anyway, I just want to give that illustration. There's so much to talk about. So I'm going to try this again. So he is perfect. He knows his plants because he planted them in the garden, and his paradise is his place of rest. So the garden is one place, but then there's paradise. This is the distinction. And Eden is regarded, but it's the atom. The atom is regarded as paradise, and that's symbolically then the throne of the sun. And to show you the throne of the sun, when you hear me make these statements, I got to qualify everything, because you're hearing stuff like you've never heard it before, because nobody talks about it. Did it not say in our scriptures that the earth is the footstool, right? The earth, it says, is Yahweh, his footstool. Well, guess what? If the earth is the footstool, then what would naturally be the throne, right? The center of it all being the sun. And that's why in Egypt, which is a parallel savior story archetype, all of the pagan traditions had a savior story, and it looks just like, our story with Yeshua, Jesus. It's called the Lost Syzygy. Clement talked about it. I'll read it one day out of the lost writings in the Apocrypha, the New Testament Apocrypha, where they stole it from us. And so the Pharaoh, who had the cobra on his head dress, saying he was a serpent, and saying he represented the big serpent, which was the sun, well, he sat on what was known as the sun throne. Okay, so he sat on the throne of the sun, representing Yahweh in his claim, representing the one who made all things. So you see, that's why knowing symbolism is so important, getting the picture, making the connections, because it's all in our face, but we don't. They did enough damage to just remove us from being able to make the connections, and we're making the connections here, ladies and gentlemen. So okay, so paradise. So in paradise is the perfection within the Father's thought, and the produce are his words, his shavors of his meditation, or we could also say vibration, his vibration that reaches out. Each of his words is the product of his will and the revelation of his speech. Since they were in the depth of his thoughts, the shavor, the word that came forth, caused them to appear, along with mind that speaks the shavor, the word, the flaming sword, what will save, the shavor, that which rains down on you from above like the radiant light, and silent grace. That's the seed of light, the race from the sun. It was called thought because they dwelled in silent grace before being revealed. So it happened that the word, the shavor, came forth when it was pleasing to the will of him who willed it. The Father is at rest in his will. Nothing happens without his pleasure. Nothing happens without the Father's will. And his will is incomprehensible. His will is his footprint, but none can comprehend him, nor does he exist so that they might study him in order to fully grasp him. Rather, when he wills, what he wills is this: even if the view does not please people before the great Elohim, it is the Father's will. For he knows the beginning and the end of all things, and at their end he will greet them. The end is the regeneration. The end is the recognition of him who is hidden. The end is the recognition of him who is hidden. He's hiding, okay? And that means the truth is hiding as well, because he is the truth. And he is the Father, from whom the beginning has come, and to whom all will return who have come from him. Not that they, in other words, that's an open-ended, because, it doesn't mean everyone. It means those who will prepare themselves, those who will do the right thing, those who will make the sacrifice, those who will step on the serpent. They have appeared for the radiant light and the enlightenment of his royal title. And the word joy is a code for enlightenment. Okay, so that's a little snippet, and you tell me there's anything contrary in those words. I thought they were like the most powerful expressions of our philosophical and spiritual tradition, So, okay, so now I got some notes I put in there on a card to follow up with here. And so because, okay, so what I should do first is I should read this other thing now out of the Dictionary of All Scriptures and Myths. Okay, this is a book I'm going to do a review on within about a week. I'm trying to work from the top down, but I'm reading I read dictionaries, so I'm reading and I read encyclopedias and this dictionary on scriptures and myth from all traditions of the world. But what we've got in here from Eastern traditions as well as our Christian tradition is of the highest order. And I can't get over that Gaskill did this without a computer. This is absolutely genius. He must have lived across the street from a library. No, it's beyond me. And yet the definitions on everything in our spiritual tradition of Christianity, it brings to light what it means, the symbolism, right? And help you get the picture. So you heard me say last night that Eden was the atom, and that's how they tricked us. They changed the A to an E, they changed the T to a D, and they changed the O to an E, and they changed the M to an N. And these are parallel codes, okay? They are sisters, but like one is of the light and one is of the darkness, right? Like the T is the tree of life, and then the D is the death, and this is part of the and there's patterns here that when you continue listening, it'll make more sense as time goes on, because there are patterns. It's a definite science. It's something that you can actually learn. It's not like, okay, Desert, where you get this stuff, you kind of like pull it out of thin air. No, it's a science. It's a science that was stolen from us, and the only distinction is it's a science of diction and of thought, but it's also a science of code, okay? A science of code. And so it's another trick. So Martha's saying, I thought I was the only one who read dictionaries. Wow. Also, Roger's Thesaurus. Okay, laughing out loud, right? Okay, well, Thank you for that, Martha. I'm glad to know I'm in good company here with a lot of great people, and you're obviously a bookworm too, so that's cool. Okay, so now I'm in what I was reading about the fall. This is a profound read, and I can't do it tonight, but it's like 2 pages on the fall. 4 columns, over 4 columns, and but I have highlights in here, and so I wanted to go because I'm going to show you. I've got my second witness now. It was like I was the only one saying that, hey, excuse me, but Eden, the paradise Eden, where Adam was taken up to before he was placed in the garden, is is the atom. It is the atom, and I'm going to give you food for thought. Okay, I'm going to show you that not he was not the only one that went there. We know a couple people that went there, and nobody clarified for you, and you may not have seen it and read it for yourself. So I'll clarify it for you. And so let me take a sip. So I'm chasing myself here. I think my voice is starting to get stronger. I've been pumping my vocals for the last several days, and it could be I'm getting a little stronger now. And I want to welcome any of our new listeners on the call today. I know we have people listening in, and some of you are indeed on the conference system or the chat room, and others of you are just listening. So welcome. Now, okay, so listen to this, because I've got my second witness now. When I read this about a week ago, I couldn't get over it. Oh, it's like, okay, somebody else saw what I'm seeing, and they're writing about it. Outstanding. So here, I'm going to back up a little bit to another highlight to see where it goes from. Oh, and it's talking about the serpent here. Look at that. And it's the serpent over here as well. Wait a minute. Not only am I going to talk about the atom, but I got more in the serpent. I forgot. This thing is about the fall. So let me just read the highlights. Why then does the soul descend and lose knowledge of its unity with the whole? And that's what happened when it said Adam fell asleep, right? For the choice is better to remain above. The answer is that the error lies in self-will. That's the serpent, the ego, self-will, driven by the flesh. Okay, I'm going to go further. The divine nature is unapparent to the astral mental body. The soul has entered into the lower life of suffering and sorrow. Then I'm going to move further. Take him to the house of purification and remove the spell from upon him. Going down further, mind, man, emotion, woman. Okay, so man is represented by mind, and woman is represented by emotion, and that's why she'll cry quicker, right? Because she's got those, different kind of hormones, and that's the symbolic thing of that. She's also smaller and has weaker muscle tone, right? She's of a different nature, and that's why she represents the fall. Even though man is in the fall with her, we're both in this thing together. Man has nothing over the woman. It's all symbolism, right? But yet man is supposed to go out and buy truth and sell it not and bring it home for the family. That's what the man is supposed to do. And unfortunately, it seems like women have to take over for the men. So now the desire mind. Okay, here we go. Now the desire mind, and then in parentheses, it's got the serpent. So not only is the flesh the serpent, but the desire mind. The desire mind is more insidious than any of the simple lower desires or appetites, the beasts, and thus is able to lead the emotion nature astray from the higher intuitions, and to divert the vibrations of energy downward to the plane of the desires. And so the emotion nature is drawn to the sense object. The sense object, what is it? Food, right? Sex, television, anything, that diverts us. Sports. So there you go. And then I'm going to go further. The attached, then attached. Okay, what's this? So the emotion nature perceives the desirability of descending to the lower planes and recognizes that the course will be the means of enabling the soul to increase its knowledge. The attachment to the lower life is set up. Yeah, we've been set up. That's what happened to Adam and Eve. They were set up, you see. Before they even did the act, they were already set up. They were given the clothing of flesh. They weren't like the other animals, right? The other animals had feathers, fur, right? Scales, whatever. They were biologically a part of the world. Man is a foreigner to the world. That's why he's the only one that has to put something on. He's got to put clothing on to show that he is naked. So what does that nakedness represent? It represents that we are missing the breath within us. That's why we breathe more than anything else. And we need the air more than anything else, or the oxygen, because we need to put on the breath, which is represented as the Holy Spirit, the great breath of the wind and fire in the original thought. We have to put on the breath, and then we will be clothed with the perfection of light. And that's the thing that we are missing. That's the thing that we have to pursue by putting off the world. Okay, and so, and the eyes of them both were opened, and they knew that they were naked. And here's another word. Okay, here's another word. Look at the word naked. You want to write it down? You got your pen? You know you need to have a pen and paper in front of you. Write down the word naked. N-A-K-E-D. One more time, I'm going to convince you that you are the serpent. Okay? Okay, did you write it down? N-A-K-E-D? Okay, now put an S in front of the word naked. And you can drop the D because the D is a corruption. Okay, do you get the picture? They were snaked. They were snaked. The snake, the word snake is right there in the word naked. When you're naked, you're showing the snake. Okay? And that's synonymous with the word sneak, because if you're naked running through the house, you might have to be sneaking as a snake, because you don't want anybody, of course, to see you, because that's the primordial serpent, and that's why we have to put clothing on. So I know I've got your attention here, and so okay, so and it's both the emotions and the mind perceive their utter lack of clothing, which is concepts. Clothing represents also concepts or ideas, their nakedness or ignorance, and they become aware of the necessity for further evolution. There you go. Man, this is so powerful. And then the fig leaves, so applied, are symbolic of secrecy. And there's a whole nother story on the figs. Okay, I can read the word backwards and tell you something about it too. So, but I'm not going there tonight. I'm getting long-winded, and I still got a reading to do that's going to blow your mind. Okay, so the fall is not regarded as an event in time, nor paradise as definite locality, but it is a state of being. Okay, going further. So I'm going to get over to the other part now. I covered enough right there to give you a lot more backup for me. And I'm going to go back up here now, and the last part. And man is always falling away from that image and quitting that garden for the wilderness of sin, being tempted by the serpent of sense. There it is again. So serpent is the mind ego. It is the sense, and then it is the flesh. So there's three aspects of it. His own lower element. And from this condition and its consequences, he is always being redeemed by the blood of the sacrifice, always being made for him by the Mashiach, Yeshua, who is the son at once of Yahweh and of blood of the earth, and is always being born of a pure virgin, dying, rising, and ascending up to the throne of the Son. And now here we go. This is what I was leading up to. Before Adam closed his eyes, which is sin. Yeah, okay, got snakes are awesome, okay. And we got slightly slanted sleuth here. Yeah, the serpent is also, yeah, there is a positive aspect of serpent, and that is that it's again, everything's a duality. So we have a two-edged sword, because the serpent, and if you were listening in last night, you would have heard that, Steve. It is that the serpent is also the Naga, and the Naga is the wise serpent. So Yeshua was the Naga healer. He was the wise serpent, or he was the serpent healer, meaning he healed the flesh of people. He was the wise serpent. He knew all things, and he also was being. When he was a youth, he was a carpenter, so he was the Naga carpenter. So there's more than one aspect to it. There's the duality, always the duality. So thank you for posing the question there, Steve. And so let me see what else we got here. I love them too. Snakes are awesome. Yeah, if they're not biting you, I guess. And this is good stuff. Thank you, Lynn. And so going on, the sun, soul. Yeah, well, the sun is the primary symbol of the serpent, because that is the Ouroboros, known as the Ouroboros. It's the serpent eating its tail. The reason the serpent is eating its tail, symbol of the sun, because it's symbolizing the cycles of the day. Every day the sun goes round, and therefore it's eating its tail. It's going round and round. That's the day cycle. Okay. And question, slightly slanted, has a question. Okay, Linda, we got it. Thank you. And yeah, no problem, Steve. Okay, so let me get back to it here. So before Adam closed his eyes and sinned, he went up into and remained in the illuminated wisdom. Okay, so before Adam closed his eyes and fell asleep, right, it said he was the first made, and he went up into and remained in the illuminated wisdom called Eden, but that's the illuminated star called the sun, known as the great atom, atom, the light that brought everything forth. Everything came out of the light. So the way back home is into the light, and he was taken there because he could see it from Yeshua's perspective. He became an archetype of Yeshua, just like Yeshua is an archetype of Yahweh, the one who instituted the universe. So great, it said that if all the stars of the cosmos were brought together, that Yahweh would still be 10,000 times greater in power than all the stars of the universe brought together, beyond our comprehension. And that's why Yeshua is instituted as the Yahweh in the spirit and flesh. That is why he and the Father are one. He is Father. He is Son. He is Virgin. And so I'm continuing in the read. And therefore he was, let me try it again. Before Adam closed his eyes and sinned, therefore, he went up into and remained in the illuminated wisdom, Eden, which is the Adam, the Son, above. There's the word above. I'm reading it. Okay, and was not separated from the tree of life, which is the Spirit, because within the throne of the Son is the Spirit of life that brings forth all things, the will of the Father. But when he acceded to the desire to know and to descend below, then he separated himself from the tree of life and knew only the darkness and left the light alone. And now I remember something that I saw within the transliteration, ladies and gentlemen, and it is that when he told Eve, he says, no, but if we do this thing, then we will know the difference between good and evil. That's not what he said. Okay, that's a late coming translation. It is what he actually said to her, that we will know the difference between sun and moon, because it always goes back to the original symbol, sun and moon, which then implied the difference between light and darkness. That's the next level. The result of sun and moon is light and darkness, the contrast, and then because they didn't want us to get that picture, they ultimately go to good and evil. Good and evil is like the Dick and Jane reader version of the original, because you want the original, you want the symbol. They referred to the sun and moon as the great symbols, and that's where it all began, ladies and gentlemen. And so that's a little bit right there for you on a little backup on the serpent. Okay, I wanted to just do a recap here tonight. Okay, so now we're going to get into the Arco volume, and I want to welcome our new listeners on the stream tonight. I know I've got a lot of people trying to figure this presentation out and what we're doing here, but the truth is stranger than fiction, and my question would be to anybody: the things that you follow, or these things that you have received from a tradition, or these things that have been revealed to you? Because from my standpoint, I found out that a lot of things that were being propagated in the churches and in the pulpits and wherever is a lot of bull, and like the papal bull, you know what I mean, and that the truth is 180 degrees in the other direction, and one has to pursue the knowledge. And if they get on their knees and they surrender their self-will, the serpent, and open up to the the divine will, then the light shines forth. It opens up. Yeshua is a revealer. Okay, so I'm going to go now into the Arco volume, and I'm going to do Pilate's letter. At least I'll get the important part out tonight. I don't know how long I'm going to last. I'm already feeling it a little bit in my voice, but I want to help you folks out. And I want you to hear some things you've never heard before. You know, there's so much ground to cover, absolutely so much ground. So yeah, you're welcome, Steve. Slightly Sanded Truth, um, and Only Begotten, First After. Oh God, yeah, there's a lot of stuff to read. Hang on, Begotten, First After God. Okay, well anyway, you folks can read that. I've got to get rolling here because I'm stand by. Oh man, there's so much ground to cover. That's the thing. All right, so Vallius. So this is in the Arco volume, chapter 5, 6, 7, 8, chapter 8, and it leads in with the primer, Vallius's notes, and so Vallius Paterculus, a Roman historian, was 19 years old when Yeshua was born. His works have been thought to be extinct. I know but of two historians that make reference to his writings, Priscian and Tacitus, who speaks of him as a descendant of an equestrian family of Campania. From what we gather from these writers, Vallius must have been a close friend of Caesar, who raised him by degrees until he became one of the great men of Rome, and for 16 years commanded the army. He returned to Rome in the year 31 and finished his work, which was called Historia Romania. He held the office of praetor when Augustus died, and while Licinius was consul. Vallius says that in Judah he met a man called Yeshua the Nazarene, who was one of the most remarkable characters he had ever seen, that he was more afraid of Yeshua than of an entire army, for he cured all manner of disease and raised the dead. And when he cursed the orchards of fruit trees for their barrenness, they instantly withered to their roots. After referring to the wonderful works of Yeshua, he says that although Yeshua had such power, he did not use it to injure anyone, but seemed always inclined to help the poor. Vallius says the Judeans were divided among in their opinion of him, the poorer classes claiming him as their king, or royal Malek, that would have been the original, the royal Malek, which means royal messenger of light, and their deliverer from Roman authority, and that if Yeshua should raise an army and give it the power, he could sweep the world in a single day. But the rich Judeans hated and cursed him behind his back and called him an Egyptian necromancer, though they were as afraid of him as of death itself. Vallius Paterculus, book 72, found in the Vatican at Rome. And so this is part of our forbidden history, ladies and gentlemen, and the great lies of history. And so tonight we're going into Pilate's report, the report he wrote after Yeshua was murdered by the Sanhedrin and the Herodians. They did it together. It was a group effort, and that Emperor and Pilate did not kill Yeshua. He was opposed to it, did everything to save his life, and part of that is in the original gospel that I read every night at the end of this presentation. Okay, so just let me take a deep breath here. This is a pretty good letter, but he's basically, he's on the hot seat now. He's got to write to his emperor and explain to him what happened. And so it's quite a report. Maybe some of you have heard it. If you've gotten a copy of the Arco volume, I think that's the only way you would hear it, other than listening in right here. Okay, so Pilate's report. To Tiberius, Kaiser, Emperor of Rome, noble sovereign, greetings. The tragic events of the last few days in my province have been of such character that I will give the details in full as they occurred, as I should not be surprised if in the course of time they may change the very destiny of our own nation. For it seems of late that all the gods have ceased to be favorable or propitious. I am almost ready to say, cursed be the day that I succeeded Valerius Flacius in the government of Judah. For since then my life has been one of continual uneasiness and distress. And I've got to turn off that air conditioner, so stand by. I'll be right back. Okay, thank you for that. It makes bad radio, but we're the real public radio, so I know you understand. Okay, so back at it. On my arrival at Jerusalem, I took possession of the praetorium and ordered a splendid feast to be prepared, to which I invited the Tetrarch of Galilee, with the high priest and his officers. At the appointed hour, no guest appeared. This I considered an insult offered to my dignity and to the whole government which I represent. A few days after the high priest deigned to pay me a visit, his deportment was grave and deceitful. He pretended that his religion forbade him and his attendants to sit at the table of the Romans and eat and offer libations with them. But this was only a sanctimonious seeming, for his very countenance betrayed his hypocrisy. Although I thought it expedient to expect his excuse, from that moment I was convinced that the conquered had declared themselves the enemy of the conquerors, and I would warn the Romans to beware of the high priests of this country. They would betray their own mother to gain office and a luxurious living. It seems to me that of conquered cities, Jerusalem is the most difficult to govern. So turbulent are the people that I live in momentary dread of an insurrection. I have not soldiers sufficient to suppress it. I had only 1 centurion and 100 men at my command. I requested a reinforcement from the prefect of Syria, who informed me that he had scarcely troops sufficient to defend his own province. An insatiate thirst for conquest to extend our empire beyond the means of defending it, I fear, will be the cause of the final overthrow of our whole government. I lived secluded from the masses, for I did not know what those priests might influence the rabble to do. Yet I endeavored to ascertain as far as I could the mind and standing of the people. Among the various rumors that came to my ears, there was one in particular that attracted my attention. A young man, it was said, had appeared in Galilee, preaching with a noble unction a new law in the title of the deity or God that had sent him. At first I was apprehensive that his design was to stir up the people against the Romans, but my fears were soon dispelled. Yeshua the Nazarene spoke rather as a friend of the Romans than of the Jews. Well, there were no Jews there, forgive me. Judeans, that's another one of those scams they played on us. And, okay, Liz, you got a question real quick? Okay, hello, Desert and everyone. I can only stay a short while as 2 a.m. Here, it's 2 a.m. where you are, Liz. Where are you where it's 2 a.m.? You in Europe? 2 a.m.? You must be in Europe. I was wondering about that the other night. And have an earlier start tomorrow. I will watch and play tomorrow. Much love. Thank you, Liz, for stopping by. All the best. And, okay, so she's in, I guess she's in Europe. That's what it sounds like. And okay, so let's see here, where are we at? Okay, so yeah, so that Yeshua of Nazareth, the Nazarene, spoke rather as a friend of the Romans than of the Judeans. One day, in passing by the place of Shiloh, where there was a great concourse of people, I observed in the center of the group a young man who was leaning against a tree, calmly addressing the multitude. I was told he was Yeshua. This I could easily have suspected, so great was the difference between him and those listening to him. His golden-colored hair and beard gave to his appearance a celestial aspect. He appeared to be about 30 years of age. Never have I seen a sweeter or more serene countenance. What a contrast between him and his listeners, with their black beards and tawny complexions. Unwilling to interrupt him, by my presence. Let me take a sip here. Oh, Liz, you're from Dublin. No kidding. Well, isn't that interesting? I'm 25% Irish, so I'm in good company then. That's a Canaanite, by the way. I hate to tell you. Story for another day. The good news is Yeshua is spirit, and we want to be of his blood anyway. So what it is of the earth is irrelevant. Okay, so unwilling to interrupt him by my presence, I continued to walk, but signified to my secretary to join the group and listen. My secretary's name is Manlius. He is the grandson of the chief of the conspirators who encamped in Etruria, waiting for Catiline. Manlius had been for a long time an inhabitant of Judah and well acquainted with the Hebrew tongue. He was devoted to me and worthy of my confidence. On entering the praetorium, I found Manlius, who related to me the words, the shavors of Yeshua, and pronounced at Shalom. Never have I read in the works of the philosophers anything that could compare to the maxims of Yeshua. One of the rebellious Judeans, so numerous in Jerusalem, having asked Yeshua if it was lawful to give tribute to Caesar, he replied, "Render unto Caesar the things that belong to Caesar, and unto Yahweh the things that are Yahweh's." It was on account of the wisdom of his breathings that I granted so much liberty to the Nazarene. For it was in my power to have had him arrested and exiled to Pontus, but that would have been contrary to the justice which has always characterized the Roman government in all its dealings with men. This man was neither seditious nor rebellious. I extended to him my protection, unknown perhaps to himself. He was at liberty to act, to speak, to assemble and address the people, and to choose disciples unrestrained by any praetorian mandate. Should it ever happen, may the gods avert the omen, should it ever happen, I say that the religion of our forefathers will be supplanted by the religion of Yeshua. It will be to this noble toleration that Rome will owe her premature death, while I, miserable wretch, will have been the instrument of what the Judeans call providence, and we call destiny. This unlimited freedom granted to Yeshua provoked the Judeans, not the poor, but the rich and powerful. It is true, Yeshua was severe on the latter, and this was a political reason, in my opinion, for not restraining the liberty of the Nazarene. Scribes and Pharaohs, shame, he would breathe before them. You are a race of vipers. There's your serpents again. You are a race of vipers. You resemble painted sepulchres. You appear well unto men, but you have death within you. At other times, he would sneer at the alms of the rich and proud, telling them that the mite of the poor was more precious in the sight of Yahweh. Complaints were daily made at the praetorium against the insolence of Yeshua. I was even informed that some misfortune would befall him, that it would not be the first time that Jerusalem had stoned those who called themselves navigators. That's the word for prophet, navigator. An appeal would be made to Caesar. However, my conduct was approved by the Senate, and I was promised a reinforcement after the termination of the Parthian War. Being too weak to suppress an insurrection, I resolved by adopting a measure that promised to restore the tranquility of the city without subjecting the praetorium to a humiliating concession. I wrote to Yeshua requesting an interview with him at the praetorium. He came. You know that in my veins flow the Spanish mixed with Roman blood. As incapable of fear as it is of weak emotion. When the Nazare made his appearance, I was walking in my basilic, and my feet seemed fastened with an iron hand to the marble pavement, and I trembled in every limb as does a guilty culprit, though the Nazare was as calm as innocence itself. When he came up to me, he stopped, and by a signal sign he seemed to say to me, I am here, though he spoke not a word. For some time I contemplated with admiration and awe this extraordinary type of man, a type of man unknown to our numerous painters, who have given form and figure to all the gods and the heroes. There was nothing about him that was repelling in its character, yet I felt too awed and tremulous to approach him. Yeshua, I said unto him at last, and my tongue faltered. Yeshua, the Nazarene, for the last 3 years I have granted you ample freedom of speech, nor do I regret it. Your shavors are those, your words are those of a sage. I do not know whether you have read Socrates or Plato, but this I do know. There is in your discourse a majestic simplicity that elevates you far above those philosophers. The emperor is informed of it, and I, his humble representative in this country, am glad of having allowed you that liberty of which you are so worthy. However, I must not conceal from you that your discourses have raised up against you powerful and inveterate enemies. Nor is this surprising. Socrates had his enemies, and he fell a victim to their hatred. Yours are doubly incensed against you on account of your discourses being so severe on their conduct. Against me on account of the liberty I have afforded you. They even accuse me of being indirectly leagued with you for the purpose of depriving the Hebrews of the little civil power which Rome has left them. My request, and I do not say my order, it is that you be more circumspect and moderate in your discourses in the future, and more considerate of them, lest you arouse the pride of your enemies, and they raise against you the stupid populace, and compel me to employ the instruments of Roman law. The Nazare calmly replied, Prince of the earth, your words proceed not from true wisdom. Say to the torrent coming down the mountain to stop in the center of the mountain gorge, as it uproots the trees of the valley. The torrent will answer you that it obeys the laws of nature and the Creator. Yahweh alone knows whether the flow of the waters of the torrent will go. It is true throughout all time that I breathe for you. I breathe unto you before the rose of Sharon blossoms this spring. The blood of this innocent will be spilt. Your blood will not be spilt. I breathed with deep emotion. You are more precious in my estimation on account of your wisdom than all the turbulent and proud Pharisheem who abused the freedom granted them by the Romans. They conspire against Caesar and convert his bounty into fear, impressing the unlearned that Caesar is a tyrant and seeks their ruin. Insolent wretches! They are not aware that the wolf of the Tiber sometimes clothes himself with the skin of the sheep to accomplish his wicked design. I will protect you against them. My praetorium will be an asylum sacred both by day and night. Yeshua carelessly shook his head and said with a grave and divine smile. When the day shall have come, there will be no asylums for the seed of the sun, neither in the earth nor under the earth. The asylum of the just is always there, pointing up towards the sun. That which is written as well in the books and scrolls of the navigators, the prophets, will be accomplished. Young man, I answered mildly, you will oblige me to convert my request into an order. The safety of the province which has been confided to my care requires it. You must observe more moderation in your discourses. Do not infringe my order. You know the consequences. May happiness attend you. Now farewell. Prince of the earth, replied Yeshua, I come not to bring war into this world, but the shalom of eternal peace, travain divine love, and charity. I was born the same day on which Augustus Caesar gave peace to the Roman world. Persecutions proceed not from me. I expect it from others, and will meet it in obedience to the will of my great Father, who has shown me the way. Restrain, therefore, your worldly prudence. It is not in your power to arrest the victim at the foot of the tabernacle of expiation. Or another way would have probably been written is, it is not in your power to arrest the sacrifice who's standing at the foot of the temple of death and sacrifice. So saying, he disappeared like a bright shadow behind the curtains of the basilic, to my great relief. For I felt a heavy burden on me, of which I could not relieve myself while in his presence. To Herod, who then reigned in Galilee, the enemies of Yeshua addressed themselves. All to wreak their vengeance on the Nazarene. Had Herod consulted his own inclinations, he would have ordered Yeshua immediately to be put to death. But though proud of his royal dignity, yet he hesitated to commit an act that might lessen his influence with the Senate. Excuse me, I have to cough. Hang on a minute. All right, excuse me. Or like me, was afraid of Yeshua. But it would never do for a Roman officer to be scared by a Judean. Previously to this, Herod called on me at the praetorium, and on rising to take leave, after some trivial conversation, asked me what was my opinion concerning the Nazarene. I replied that Yeshua appeared to me to be one of those great philosophers that great nations sometimes produce, that his doctrines were by no means sacrilegious, and that the intentions of Rome were to leave him to that freedom of speech which was justified by his actions. Herod smiled maliciously, and then saluting me with ironical respect, he departed. The great feast of the Judeans was approaching, and the intention was to avail themselves of the popular exultation which always manifests itself at the solemnities of a Passover. The city was overflowing with a tumultuous populace, clamoring for the death of the Nazarene. My emissaries informed me that the treasury of the temple had been employed in bribing the people. The danger was pressing. A Roman centurion had been insulted. I wrote to the prefect of Syria for 100 foot soldiers as many cavalry. He declined. I saw myself alone with only a handful of veterans in the center of a rebellious city, too weak to suppress an uprising and having no choice left but to tolerate it. They had seized upon Yeshua and the seditious rabble, although they had nothing to fear from the praetorium, believing as their leaders had told them that I closed my eyes at their sedition, continued vociferating, "Crucify him! Crucify him!" Three powerful parties had combined together at that time against Yeshua: the Herodians and the Sadducees, whose seditious conduct seemed to have proceeded from double motives. They hated the Nazarene and were impatient of the Roman yoke. They never forgave me for having entered the holy city with banners that bore the image of the Roman emperor. And although in this instance I had committed a fatal error, yet the sacrilege did not appear less heinous in their eyes. Another grievance also rankled in their bosoms. I had proposed to employ a part of the treasure of the temple in erecting edifices for public use. My proposal was scorned. The Pharishees were the avowed enemies of Yeshua. They cared not for the government. They bore with bitterness the severe reprimands which the Nazarene for 3 years had been continually giving them wherever he went. Timid and too weak to act by themselves, they had embraced the quarrels of the Herodians and of the Sadducees. Besides these three parties, I had to contend against the reckless and profligate populace, always ready to join a sedition, and to profit by the disorder and confusion that resulted therefrom. Yeshua was dragged before the high almond priest late at night, and then condemned to death. It was then that the high almond priest, SKYPE, performed a divisory act of submission. He sent his prisoner to me to confirm his condemnation and secure his execution. I answered him that as Yeshua was a Galilean, the affair came under Herod's jurisdiction, and ordered him to be sent there. The wily tetrarch professed humility, and protesting his difference to the lieutenant of Caesar, he committed the fate of the man to my hands again. Soon my palace assumed the aspect of a besieged citadel. Every moment increased the number of the malcontents. Jerusalem was inundated with crowds from the mountains of the Nazarene, and all Judah appeared to be pouring into the city. I had taken a wife from among the Gauls, who pretended to see into futurity. Weeping and throwing herself at my feet, she breathed before me, "Beware, beware, and do not touch that man, that blood of the earth, for he is pure and holy. Last night I saw him in a vision. He was walking on the water. He was flying on the wings of the wind. He spoke to the great whirlwind and to the fishes of the lake, and all were subject to him." You must see and read it for yourself. The torrent in Mount Kidron flows with blood. The statues of Caesar are filled with genocide. The columns of the Interium have given way, and the sun is veiled in mourning like a vestal in the tomb. There you go. The sun is veiled. She's being prophetic right there. Ah, Pilate, darkness awaits you. If you will not listen to the vows of your wife, then dread the curse of a Roman Senate. Dread the frowns of Caesar. By this time, the marble stairs outside cracked and groaned under the weight of such a great multitude. The Nazarene was brought back to me. I proceeded to the halls of justice, followed by my guard, and asked the people in a severe tone what they demanded. "The death of the Nazarene," was the reply. "For what crime?" "He has blasphemed. He has prophesied the ruin of the temple. He calls himself the seed of the sun, the Mashiach, the royal Malek of the Judeans. Roman justice, said I, punishes not such offenses with death. Crucify him, cried the relentless rabble. The vociferations of the infuriate mob shook the palace to its foundations. There was but one who appeared to be calm in the center of the vast multitude, and it was the Nazarene. After many fruitless attempts to protect him from the fury of his merciless persecutors, I adopted a measure which at the moment appeared to be to me the only one that could save his life. I proposed, as it was their custom, to deliver a prisoner on such occasions, to release Yeshua and let him go free, that he might be the, quote, scapegoat, as they called it. But they said Yeshua must be crucified. I then spoke to them of the inconsistency of their course as being incompatible with their laws, showing that no criminal judge could pass sentence on a criminal unless it had fasted one whole day, and that the sentence must have the consent of the Sanhedrin and the signature of the president of that court, that no criminal could be executed on the same day his sentence was fixed, and the next day, on the day of his execution, the Sanhedrin was required to review the whole proceeding. Also, according to their law, a man was stationed at the door of the court with a flag, and another in a short way off on horseback to cry the title or name of the criminal and his crime, and the names of his witnesses, and to know if anyone could testify on his behalf and in his favor. And the prisoner on his way to execution had the right to turn back 3 times and to plead any new thing in his favor. I urged all these pleas, hoping they might awe them into subjection. But they still cried, "Crucify him! Crucify him!" I then ordered Yeshua to be scourged, hoping this might be to their satisfaction. But it only increased their fury. I then called for a basin of water, and I washed my hands in the presence of the clamorous multitude, thus making the public declaration that in my judgment, Yeshua the Nazarene had done nothing deserving of death. But it was all in vain. And it was his life these wretches thirsted for. And in the original gospel we read every night, in there it says, and he made the offer to Herod, and it said that Herod and all of his officers refused to wash their hands, ladies and gentlemen, part of the history that was forbidden. Often in our civil commotions, I have witnessed the furious anger of the multitude, but nothing could be compared to what I witnessed on this occasion. It might have been truly said that all the phantoms of the infernal regions had assembled at Jerusalem. The crowd appeared not to walk, but to be borne off and whirled as a vortex, rolling along in living waves from the portals of the praetorium, even unto Mount Zion, with howling screams, shrieks, and vociferations such as were never heard in the seditions of the Pannonia, or in the tumults of the Forum. By degree, the day had darkened, like a winter's twilight, such as had been at the death of the great Julius Caesar. It was likewise the Ides of March. I, the continued governor of a rebellious province, was leaning against a column of my basilic, contemplating athwart the dreary gloom these fiends of Tartarus dragging to execution the innocent Nazarene. All around me the place was now deserted. Jerusalem had vomited forth her indwellers through the funeral gate that leads to Germanica. infinity. An act of desolation and sadness enveloped me. My guards had joined the cavalry, and the centurion, with a display of power, was endeavoring to keep order. I was left alone, and my breaking heart admonished me that what was passing at that very moment appertained rather to the history of the gods than to that of men. A loud clamor was heard proceeding from Golgotha, which, borne on the winds, seemed to speak of an agony and an end of such as was never heard by mortal ears. Dark clouds lowered over the pinnacle of the temple, and setting over the city, covered it as with a veil. So dreadful were the signs that men saw both the sky and on the earth that Dionysius the Areopagite, they were the signs that men saw both in the sky and on the earth that Dionysius the Areopagite is reported to have exclaimed, either the author of nature is suffering, or the universe itself is falling apart. While these appalling scenes of nature were transpiring, there was a dreadful earthquake in Lower Mitzrayim, Egypt, which filled everybody with fear and scared the superstitious Judeans almost to death. It is said Belshazzar, an aged and learned Judean of Antioch, was found dead after the excitement was over. Whether he died from alarm or grief, it is not known. He was a strong friend of the Nazarene. Near the first hour of the night, I threw my, well, not the night, but of this darkness, okay? That's what it should be. Near the first hour of this darkness, I threw my mantle around me and went down into the city towards the gate of Golgotha. The sacrifice was consummated. The crowd was returning home, still agitated, it is true, but gloomy, taciturn, and desperate. What they had witnessed had stricken them with terror and remorse. I also saw my little Roman cohort pass by mournfully, the standard bearer having veiled his eagle in a token of grief, and I overheard some of the Judean soldiers murmuring strange words which I did not comprehend. Others were recounting the miracles, very like those which have so often smitten the Romans by the will of the gods. Sometimes groups of men and women would stop, and then, looking back towards the skull of Mount Calvary Road, would remain motionless in expectation of witnessing some new vision or sign or wonder. I returned to the Praetorium, sad and pensive. On ascending the stairs, the steps of which were still stained in the blood of the Nazarene, I perceived an old man in a suppliant posture, and behind him several Hebrews in tears. He threw himself at my feet and wept most bitterly. It is painful to see an old man weep, and my heart being already overcharged with grief, we, those strangers, wept together. And in truth, it seemed that the tears lay very shallow that day with many whom I perceived in the vast concourse of people. I never witnessed such an extreme revulsion of feeling. Those who betrayed and sold him out, those who testified against him, those who cried, "Crucify him! We will drink his blood today!" all slunk off like cowardly curs and washed their teeth with vinegar. As I am told that Yeshua taught of a resurrection and of a new ascension of light, separation from death, if such should be the fact, I am sure that it commenced in this vast crowd and great display of nature. "Father, Father," said I to him, after gaining control of my emotions, "who are you? And what is your request?" He said, I am Volshaf of Ramtha, that is, Joseph of Arimathea, the great uncle of Yeshua, he replied. And I am come to beg from you on my knees the permission to bury my family member, Yeshua the Nazarene. Your prayer is granted, I said to him. And at the same time, I ordered Manlius to take some soldiers with him to superintend the interment, lest it should be profaned. A few days after, the sepulchre was found empty. His disciples proclaimed all over the country that Yeshua had risen from the dead. As he had foretold, he came back. This created more excitement even than the crucifixion itself. As to its truth, I cannot say for certain, but I have made some investigation of the matter, so you can examine for yourself and see if I am in fault, as Herod represents. Volshaf of Ramtha buried Yeshua in his own tomb. Whether he contemplated his resurrection or calculated to cut him another tomb, I cannot tell. The day after he was buried, one of the Amon priests came to the praetorium and said that they were apprehensive that his disciples intended to steal the body of Yeshua and to hide it and then make it appear as if he had risen from the dead, as he had foretold, and of which they were perfectly convinced. I sent him to the captain of the royal guard, Malchus, to tell him to take the Judean soldiers, place as many around the sepulchre as were needed. Then if anything should happen, they could blame themselves and not the Romans. When the great excitement arose about the sepulchre being found empty, I felt a deeper solicitude than ever. I sent for Malchus, who told me he had placed his lieutenant Ben Isham with 100 Hebrew soldiers around the sepulchre. He told me that Isham and the soldiers were very much alarmed at what had occurred there that morning. I sent for this man Isham, who related to me, as near as I can recollect, the following circumstances. He said that at about the beginning of the 4th watch, they saw a soft and beautiful light over the sepulchre. He at first thought that the woman had come to embalm the body of Yeshua, as was their custom, but he could not see how they had gotten through the guards. While these thoughts were passing through his mind, you must see and read it for yourself, the whole place was lighted up, and there seemed to be crowds of the dead walking from their graves in their grave clothes. All seemed to be shouting and filled with ecstasy, while all around and above was the most beautiful music he had ever heard, and the whole air seemed to be full of voices praising their God. At this time there seemed to be a reeling and swimming of the earth, so that he turned so sick and faint that he could not stand on his feet any longer. And he said the earth seemed to swim right under him, and his senses left him, and so that he did not know what occurred next. I asked him in what condition he was when he came to himself, and he said he was lying on the ground with his face down. I asked him if he could not have been mistaken as to the light. Was it not day that was coming in the east? And he said at first he thought of that, but at a stone's cast it was exceedingly dark. And then he remembered it was too early for the day. I asked him if his dizziness might have come from being wakened up and getting up too suddenly, as it sometimes had that effect. He said he was not, and had not been asleep all night, as the penalty was death for him to sleep on duty. He said he had let some of the soldiers sleep at a time, Some were asleep then. I asked him how long the scene lasted. He said he did not know, but he thought nearly an hour. He said it was just like the light of day. I asked him if he went to the sepulchre after he had come to himself. He said no, because he was afraid. That just as soon as relief came, they all went to their quarters. I asked him if he had been questioned by the Amun priests, and he said he had. They wanted him to say it was an earthquake, and that they were asleep, and offered him money to say that the disciples came and stole Yeshua. But he saw no disciples. He did not know that the body was gone until he was told. I asked him what was the private opinion of those Amun priests he had conversed with. He said that some of them thought that Yeshua was no man, that he was not an earthly being, that he was not the seed of Mary, that he was not the same that was said to be born of virgin in Bethlehem, that the same character had been on earth before with Brahim as Shem and Lot and at many other times and places. And by the way, ladies and gentlemen, I'll share that story with you on another occasion because that is absolutely true. He's been coming here interacting with us from the beginning, and that's another story for another day. Continuing. It seems to me that if the Judean theory be true, these conclusions are correct, for they are in accord with this man's life, as is known and declared by both friends and enemy. For the elements were no more less in his hands than the clay in the hands of the potter. He could convert water into wine. He could change death into life, disease into health. He could calm the seas, still the storm, call up fish with a silver coin in its mouth. Now I say, if he could do all of these things which he did, and many more, as the Judeans all declare, and it was doing these things that created this enmity against him, he was not charged with criminal offenses, nor was he charged with violating any law, nor of wrongdoing any individual in character. And all these facts are known to thousands, as well by his enemies and by his friends. I am almost ready to say, as did Manlius at the cross, truly, this is the seed of the Son. Now, noble sovereign, this is as near the facts in the case as I can arrive. And I have taken pains to make the statement very complete, so that you may judge of my conduct upon the entire matter as I hear that Antipater, Herod, has said many hard things about me in this matter, with the promise of faithfulness and excellent wishes for my noble sovereign. I am your most obedient servant, Pontius Pilate. And there you have the forbidden history, ladies and gentlemen. They don't want you to know, but we tell right here because somebody's got to do it. And is that not a profound read out of the Arco volume? I didn't tell you what else is in this Arco volume, but it is an amazing find and story. And so you'll just have to get the book and read the introduction. Okay, again, it's the Arco volume, and the publisher is Keats. I believe they're out of print. The company's gone now, but you can probably get a used copy from Amazon. The Arco volume by Keats, Keats. Arco is spelled Archko, Archko, and then the last word is volume, Volume. The Arco volume, and so there you have it, ladies and gentlemen. There's no one document, I think, that better tells the story of the real. What did that movie by Mel Gibson? What was that called? The Passion. Well, this was I think the best presentation of the Passion that we could want to read, because it's coming firsthand. This is firsthand account from the insider, you know. And closing my curtains here, forgive me, but gotta do that. And so I've read this thing over and over. Okay, I've read it many times and never get tired of it. You know, to read it and share it with people. It's a compelling story. And when I do the original gospel, if the Heavenly Father allows for the time to do that, I just don't think there's time anymore for publishing anything really. But I'm going to keep trying if I can ever get my old data off my computer. Um, we need to get quite a bit of support to behind that. We need to bring a lot of people in. So if you want to help the project, ladies and gentlemen, you know, telling other people is a key way to, uh, um, you know, get this ministry to grow. Because I can publish works right now. I can publish the book by Joseph of Arimathea. Here he was in the story, and I've got the book of wisdom that he wrote, and it is the most powerful book of wisdom of all time. And if any of you want to get a copy of it, any size donation, okay, any size. And if you can't do a donation, then just let me know you want a copy, and I'll get it to you. But you can get it by emailing me, contact@freeamericaradio.com. That takes you also to the PayPal, or you can go to therealpublicradio.net, therealpublicradio.net, and there's a PayPal button there, and just say you want the Book of Wisdom, okay, and I'll be glad to get that to you right away as soon as the email comes in within the hour. And or if you want to get the Real Da Vinci Code Etymological Dictionary, 300 pages of 8.5 by 11, mind-blowing content of the codes. The codes. You ought to look up the word understanding. Okay. You don't when you know the word meaning of the word understanding, you'll never want to understand anything again. But we are in an occultic world, just like you saw tonight when I was offering people to call in on Skype, right? And then did any friendly call in? No, I got a link that to a virus, that would have destroyed my computer. I'd seen them before, and so they're listening, and that's okay, because they think they're somehow some kind of superior being, you know, and they're only of the dirt. I don't even consider them to be from the fiery magma, but really from the dirt, because they are dirt. They're here to destroy our world, destroy our society, and they feel real impressed with power because they've been given special privileges to commit crimes in society where we all have to obey the law, of course, and we would want to. And then they can take their drugs and they can participate in their whoredoms and and their acts of violence against other people when they're given the orders to commit acts of violence against other people. They're very happy to do it, because they didn't have a mommy, and they got sodomized probably by their handlers, from early on. They're victims in their own right. They're immature mental midgets, and they're ruled by the center of their tree, which we talked about that, the center of their tree being their androgynous zone. That's all they know, and they will never have the benefit of knowing true enlightenment or true knowledge, or to find peace, because their life will be always in chaos, and they're cursed. They're a cursed people, and their families will be cursed, their children will be cursed, and as the scripture says, down to the fourth generation, and they'll never transcend. They will never transcend, and it's sad. And if you want to have another way to support your health and this project at the same time, you can go to and each night I'm going to read out a different card with somebody's name on it that supports the project. You can have your own online health food store and join for free with no obligation to buy every month. You buy what you want when you want, and it has weekly pay on it as well. And it's a way to support this ministry. I'm trying to be creative. I don't expect to be on, the commercial end of YouTube. There is no commercials here, and I don't know anything about Patreon, so I don't know what that's about. And I'm not technically minded, but I love health, helping people with health problems, and this company has products that, in taken in conjunction, could help people with the most extreme. Okay, and I'm not going to use the C word here, but you know what I'm saying, the C word, the extreme conditions that take people down. They have product there that will help them if they take it in conjunction together. Okay, so it's real important. So Live Free 2, that's a number 2, livefree2.basicreset.com. That's one of our supporters. Okay, livefree2.basicreset, basic reset, natural spelling.com. Live free, as in freedom, livefree2.com / no / excuse me, .com. Okay, so livefree2.basicreset.com. And thank you for supporting, grassroots, ladies and gentlemen. We're not the big time. We're not, AM and FM. We're the, the grassroots, and that's okay, because I'm not here to. Okay, Lynn, thank you so much for stopping by, and all the best. Thank you for being here and giving me encouragement to continue on here. And the line is open. You can call if you want to say hi real quick. I'm wanting to test my webcam microphone because I realized I was on the wrong microphone when I was testing my phone, and I think this is the solution. So, or if you want to call in on Skype, I take a call on Skype. Free America Radio is one word. Free America Radio. I'm not going to do the other segments tonight because I'm feeling it in my voice, and I figure it's better to take a break now. But I do want to thank all of you who do care, and love truth, and are trying to figure out the great mystery, and realize as well there's something to this, that what I'm sharing you know that I'm here, from the bottom of my heart, sharing with you what is absolutely certain in my heart and my mind. I'm not here to convince anybody. I'm just putting it on the table. I put it on the table, and you can look at it, you can turn it over, handle it, and then you can put it back on the table and leave it there, and no problem. Because we all have to see and read things for ourselves. Nobody can make us see anything. Nobody. Okay, it's a miracle. It's a miracle to have eyes that see. And so the first thing to do when you feel you're having challenges with seeing things clearly, like about the serpent, all I say is just get on your knees and ask Yeshua to open your eyes wider. You've already got eyes to see. You've really, you're pursuing knowledge, and you want to live forever. You want to live pure, and yet what has been handed to us is part truth and part lie, and the truth is not a part of any lie. That's 1 John 2:27, the anointing that you have received of him. So put on the light of truth, ladies and gentlemen. It is the light. It is in the light. And so I just want to thank you all for tuning in. I'm very grateful to know some wonderful people, and just hope that we can tell as many people as possible. The time is short. That's why I'm doing it 7 days a week. Okay, I've got nobody to talk to anyway. so I said, hey, why not talk to the world, those who want to hear it. I'm coming, every day, and then you can call in. We can get to know each other that way, and we're all in the same boat. We're all in the same struggle, and we need answers. So you can benefit from my research as a political activist. I can talk about the government. We don't have to just be in one vein talking about the spirituality. That's the most important. But we can talk about the sky phenomena. We can talk about the political shell game called Washington, D.C., a total staged event. The Federal Reserve is in the control, ladies and gentlemen. The Federal Reserve is the receiver in the bankruptcy. The Federal Reserve is the head. Federal Reserve is the boss. Okay? Washington, D.C. is the puppy, the tail, the Doolittle. They're bought and paid for, not by you, but by the Federal Reserve. And they're under secrecy. They're having a party. It's a big joke. Call your congressman. Give me a break. Don't call your congressman. You don't have a congressman. So we can talk about, and then the Forbidden History course. So it's wide open. Okay, I want to have this an open forum so that we could anybody that's trying to figure one thing out Maybe I've already, seen that in my own studies. I'm just here to serve. Okay, so you've been real great hanging in there with me, and so I just want to remind you, okay, not to forget, if you want to know the future, then you just need to look for the forbidden history. I'm Desert Owl, thanking you for tuning in, and hope to see you again tomorrow night. Okay, we'll see you. Thank you.